So we'll get started. So of course, as you've seen everywhere on the internet, today is Rare Disease Day. It's an annual event that's been going on, from my understanding, is about 10 years. And it's done internationally across the world. And so we thought we'd do a little bit of celebration for Rare Disease Day. I'm going to know that one of the first things that people will say to me about arachnoiditis is, but it's not a rare disease. And I think for a lot of people, you're probably right. And I think certainly people like Dr. Tennant and other doctors that have been involved in this recognize that this is not, hello everyone, come on in, that this is not at all a rare disease. It seems more likely that it's just rarely diagnosed because so many people, so many doctors have no clue what this is. And I think you're going to find as we go along today that this is actually the rare disease experience. It is absolutely common what we're going through all across every one of the 6,000 or 7,000 rare diseases that there are. So I thought I'd do a talk about how rare disease and arachnoiditis, the arachnoiditis experience is in fact a rare disease experience, whether or not we're rare, we really truly are rare disease. Hopefully in, maybe I'm thinking 7 years, if we get going right, we'll have all those answers once we get our research going and start standing up for ourselves and finding ways to get through this, because the doctors aren't going to do it. We hope that we'll have those answers, but right now, of course, we don't. I'll just mention quickly that, here, I'll go on to the next slide if I know how, I hope. Tell me it's not going to do this. There we go. So hi, this is me in my old wheelchair. This is about 5 years ago now. I've lost some weight since then, thank goodness. This is put on by ACMCRN. We're the Arachnoiditis and Chronic Meningitis Collaborative Research Network. We're located in Canada. We're a registered Canadian nonprofit, but we serve the global arachnoiditis community. So we try to collaborate with and amplify, magnify any work that's done anywhere on arachnoiditis and bring it together into one community so that with the force of all of us, we can find ways forward and common experiences and so on. So this is me. This is my old wheelchair. I do actually still have a wheelchair. It's very similar to this one. It tilts and reclines because a lot of people with arachnoiditis, as you know, really cannot tolerate sitting upright. Yeah, you understand, do you, Sybil? It's like anything like you're sitting on your tailbone or your legs or whatever. So for me, this is the reclining position that I tend to find myself in once I park. On some days I'll lay it right out if I'm at a friend's house or something, but I drive at about a 30-degree angle. Obviously you couldn't drive like this, so you lower itself down till you get to about the right situation, and then you drive. You have to remember too, if you've not had a wheelchair, that they custom do your seats so that if you have a specific problem in the sacral area or something like on your tailbone, they can find ways around that. And in my new chair, I struggle with a lot of cervical arachnoiditis and a lot of problems in my upper trunk and so on. My new wheelchair actually wraps around my trunk and up underneath my arms to give me the support. So there's a lot of options, and I want people to not be afraid of taking, opportunities. So this is me, and we'll head on. I'm going to talk a little bit next about rare disease, and we're just going to watch one video for Rare Disease Day to start out with. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm going to get rid of that. Yes, it's in a different language. You'll have to read the subtitles.
Este es nuestro pequeño, nuestro primer hijo, nieto, bisnieto. Le encanta pintar, jugar, bailar y leer cuentos. Tiene la enfermedad de Gaucher. Ja se zovem Jelena. Volim da budem okružena prirodom i upijem slike i zvuke oko sebe sa svojim mužem. Volim slobodu, putovanja, čisti prostor. Završila sam fakultet i odlučna sam da uspem u životu.
أنا أحب السيارات وألعاب الفيديو لدرجة أنني أرغب في الحصول عليها جميعا حتى لو كان ذلك مستحيلا. أتناسى نفس الأفلام مع أصدقائي وعائلتي. وجدوا أن تشخيص الحصر صعب، ولكن دائما أحاول أن أعطي الطاقة الإيجابية بابتسامة كبيرة.
igama lami nginguThekos. Ngithakazelela ezobuciko, ezomculo kunye lezemidlalo. Ngangilethemba lokuthi lami ngingaba ngumzali njengoba ngiphila lo mkhuhlane we-von Willebrand. Kodwa namhlanje ngingumama wendodana engipha injabulo enkulu.
أنا اسمي ندى. أنا أدرس علم الصوتيات في الجامعة لأنني أهتم بالتواصل واللغويات. أنا عندي انحلال البشرة الفقاعي وأحيانا يستخفون بي.
Kule nkinga esibhekane lazo ngathwala nzima ukuze odokotela bazi ukuthi ibulawa yini. Para tener acceso imithi eqondileyo.
أو أي علاج على الإطلاق.
أحيانا أتعرض للتمييز، وصمة عار.
Ili čak isključivanjem iz društva. Naše priče su jedinstvene, rijetke, drugačije i različite. Ipak imamo mnogo sličnosti.
شغف مشترك في الحياة، التحديات والإحباطات المشتركة.
Un impulso compartido para el cambio. Amazwi ethu sonke kumele azwakale njalo izikhalazo zethu zinanzelele. No importa si vivimos en
مصر،
Serbia,
لبنان،
Perú, India, Japan, Mexico, kumbe eZimbabwe. Nxa sindawonye ilizwe lethu lilamandla.
معا نستطيع أن نرفع مستوى الوعي، تحطيم حواجز الرعاية والتشخيص والعلاج.
نحن نطالب بالإنصاف والشمول. نحن نظهر للعالم ما نحن قادرون عليه.
Uprkos izazovima sa kojima smo suočeni.
لنضيء منارة من الضوء لكل من يحتاج إلينا.
Pero aún tienen que encontrarnos. Con 300 millones de historias, juntos
Okay. Oops, sorry guys, didn't mean to do that again. We'll see if it goes on to the next one for me. There we go. So I'll just get this down so you don't have to see that. So as you've seen everywhere, this is across a lot of the social media right now. If you are tagging anyone and want to talk about this today, we do suggest Rare Disease Day, and there's some tags at the end that I'll show you. But the idea that rare is many, which is true, rare is strong and rare is proud, I think is very sort of a motto that we have to think about. And I don't know if we're going to have any international people here, but we thought just in case we would include you all, because we do have an international group. We try to translate a lot of our resources into different languages. We have translation teams. If you speak a second language and have time, we do it from your bed. We essentially give you the original. We take a translation done not on Google, but on something called DeepL or something of that nature. And we give it to you, and then you can just edit it for the natural language in case anybody wants. Okay, can everyone mute their, just for this little bit, can you mute your audio, please? Just because I have some background. I think that's okay. So this says, and this is this year's numbers, that there are 6,000 identified rare diseases. They believe there's over 7,000 altogether. Some are ultra rare. There's a few that will be by a genetic mutation that, you know, is just a once or twice happening sort of thing across, you know, essentially the globe. Although I think everyone with a rare disease struggles with what we initially struggled with before the internet, and that was trying to find other people that have what we have, because, you know, you may be the only person that you know in your area, or certainly my doctor, when I first met him, said, you know, I don't imagine I'll ever have anyone else with this. Now I kind of smile because I think he probably has quite a few people with this and just don't know it. The next thing that collectively, and this is, I was very surprised, the number of people living with the rare disease is equivalent to the population of the world's third largest country. So you can see why we are trying to come together, even though there's 6,000 or 7,000 different zebra herds, and I'll talk to you about zebras later, different zebra herds, that together the power in politics, the power in research, the power in getting doctors interested is by joining together. So we really do have to consider what rare disease is like. And what were we looking for? We're just looking for some equity. We just want to be treated like everyone else that shows up with the disease, that people can, our doctors can identify it, that they understand that there's a treatment plan, that there's an FDA or other, depending on your country, approved either treatment, medicine, or something of that nature. We have none of that yet, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So I've got another video. I should just make sure. Matthew, can you still hear me and see everything okay?
Yep, good as gold.
Okay, good. All right, here we go then. Another video. This is the last one, I promise.
Looking back, I was lucky with my GP. I described my symptoms and how worried I felt. Fortunately, my GP had encountered similar symptoms before, so knew what route to take for further help. When my test results came back, my GP was clear of the next steps and referred me to a specialist immediately upon feeling my first symptoms. I saw my GP. But straight away, I felt like my concerns weren't taken seriously. I had some tests, but the results weren't conclusive. I was told to wait and see, and sent on my way to the specialist. I felt a sense of relief. I didn't want anything to be wrong, but if I got a diagnosis, then at least that would be an answer was all I wanted. My GP didn't seem to know what was wrong. They did try to find out, but I was bounced from specialist to specialist for months, none of whom seemed to talk to each other. So I kept having to explain what I was going through, like it was the first specialist appointment went very well. The specialist ruled out some common conditions before testing for a rare one which had similar symptoms as mine. The specialist got in touch with a clinical centre of excellence who confirmed my diagnosis. It was a relief to know what was happening to my body and the cause. My specialist and I worked through a plan for the management of my condition. I felt in control of what would happen next. It was very unclear. I had so many different tests, and each specialist examined something new. It was a confusing and slow process. I felt helpless. Chasing my own health information became exhausting. My symptoms were getting worse. Week by week, my symptoms started to improve. With routine visits to a specialist centre, I'm able to manage my condition and have access to appropriate treatment options. My specialist encouraged me to join a support group. It's been such a relief to meet people who know what I'm going through. On a good day, my condition causes very little disruption to my life, is steadily increasing. I'm still not sure my diagnosis is right. Uncontrolled symptoms make work almost impossible, and relationships are strained. Health professional support feels really limited. I need helping me on this journey. A healthcare professional stepped in to coordinate my care. We worked through a comprehensive care plan that includes both physical and psychological support. It's easy to keep track thanks to their scheduling and understanding what doctor to go to when and what for became impossible. Hospital departments didn't seem to coordinate my appointments, so I had to arrange and juggle them myself. Eventually, my family had to step in and coordinate. My care relies on teamwork and coordinated management.
Without that in place, I will really struggle without access to information and experts who understand my condition. I have some family support, but they can't offer medical answers and solutions. I feel guilty about the impact that this has had on their lives as well as mine.
About was actually there is initiative by the Rare Disease Organization in Europe called EuroDs, and there's so much in that group that are in that organization that we can talk about in the future. But right now, I want to talk about the Rare Barometer programs. They're actually surveys that they're doing specifically with the large global rare disease community on things with regards to how, the quality of life is, what our problems are, that sort of thing. They regularly, I'm going to read from there. It says they regularly survey the rare disease community by its Rare Barometer program to identify patient perspectives and the needs on a number of issues to bring their voice within European, international initiatives and policy developments. Now, I'll say, first of all, that says European, but they honestly, they work with everybody. Hello?
If you're sharing your screen, we can't see it.
Oh, good for telling me. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for coming in. Let me show you then, if I can try again. Where am I? Zoom. Okay, Zoom meeting. This one. Share screen. Can you see anything yet?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, good. Thank you. This will make things a lot better, won't it? Hide meeting controls. Okay, so I think we're okay. Thanks, Lexi. Okay, so as I was saying, it is a European rare disease organization. There's organizations actually worldwide for rare disease. In Canada, it's called CORD. In US, it's called NORD. And their Show Your Stripes campaign that you see, that's the NORD campaign. They all do about the same thing in that they're trying to bring rare diseases groups from all different areas, putting them together and trying to work as one voice in government policy, in trying to bring together educational resources, these sorts of surveys. I mean, they're fantastic. And to be honest, everything I've learned to do in the last 4 years, I've learned largely through EuroDis or NORD. So if anyone, is interested in looking in their resources, they really have so many. I can't even start to tell you. There's just so many possibilities. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of their programs, the Rare Barometer program. This one was actually a survey specifically on healthcare, what the experience was for people with rare diseases in healthcare. And this was just done in 2021, so it's fairly new. And these are the key findings from a survey on patients and their caregivers' experience of how medical care works in their rare disease. So again, here at the bottom, you'll see 30 million people are living with rare disease in Europe, 300 million worldwide. As you were earlier on, we saw that we would make up the third most populous country in the world if we were all put together. And for the vast majority of diseases, there's no cure, there's no treatment available. And in many things like ours, we don't even yet know all the diagnostic criteria. So we're really starting at the beginning, but the good news is these programs have the resources to lead us through. So in this particular survey, patients and their caregivers were asked to rate how often on a scale from 1, never, to 5, always. So 5 is you always have great healthcare, 1 or 0 is never. That healthcare professionals how often did you consider that the aspects of the healthcare experience? I mean, we go in, but what happens to us? Questions included aspects related to whether we get follow-up after we go and see a specialist, whether there's any information given to us on treatment. And let's face it, until you find a rare disease group that have used the voices of all of us together, you probably aren't at this point going to find that in arachnoiditis. You know, they asked about care coordination, which depending on which country you live in can be better or worse. In Canada, I'm actually very fortunate in that I actually even get caregivers to help 4 times a day. Or also the questions including how they manage their healthcare in the daily life. Okay, we're only going to look at some of those. Sorry about that. We flipped through. So number 1 question was with regards to how well they did, how well your doctors and your healthcare professionals do about contacting patients or their caregivers after a visit, after maybe they've got a diagnosis or they've started to first see you, to see how things are going. And I think for a lot of people, we get sent from specialist to specialist to specialist. Very few follow up with us or follow up with our GPs. And as you might have remembered in that video, it does sort of feel like we're on our own trying to find our way through the system. And as a group, we're going to do our best to try to find that way together. So in this particular survey, they rated 2.0, with 1 being never, not good, with 5 being wonderful. They didn't even get a passing grade. So some of the quotes were that there's no multidisciplinary follow-up, which is what I was just talking about. You'll have one specialist and another specialist, but nobody will work together and pull all the systems together. With arachnoiditis, we know it's a multi-system disease. It's not just going to affect your back. It's not just going to affect your pain. It can affect you, and most often it does affect your bladder, your sexual organs, walking. It can bring in autoimmune disease, new autoimmune conditions. There's a number of things. So we really do need a multidisciplinary approach, which is what we're going to try to develop in time. For example, one of the rare disease patients said, since the diagnosis 4 years ago, the facility has never contacted me for any follow-up. And I think a lot of us know that. We get kind of just, they say they don't know what we're doing, and then we just get left out there, and the GP doesn't know what they're doing, and they throw it up in their hands, and you're just left trying to figure it out yourself. Number 2, encouraging patients or caregivers to go to a specific group or class to help. Now, before this, you know, before the advent of internet, and I can go back, I've been in the arachnoiditis community since 2008. And when I started, we were actually, before, we just were ending the email digest groups, and we moved on to the Yahoo groups. And as this has gotten better, as social media has gotten better, as these connection abilities for us to connect virtually all over the world has gotten better, our power has increased. So now there's a lot of power. In fact, I can show you a number of research surveys that shows how much power there is in social groups like ours, social support groups, peer groups, in moving things forward and supporting one another and coming up with the treatments that the doctors don't know. So I hope, if you're not already a member of ACMCRN, which is the public Facebook site, or our private group where we talk more, you know, private stuff, which is called Iraq Warriors. If you're not one of those, that's fine. There's got to be, you know, 15 different ones on Facebook. And I'm sure, for example, I'm going to suggest, if you're in Europe, there's one called Rare Connect, rareconnect.org. That's Eurodis's program. And it's very much the same as Facebook. You go in, you chat with one another, talk about it. We also have, and I'll go on a little bit later, our Stuff That Works research survey. It also has a secondary component that you can talk amongst yourselves, post questions and comments. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, if you're not a Facebook fan, I suggest you just, you know, either contact me or reach out, because there's a number of them. And I'll mention here that, in fact, we do have one moderator for Rare Connect in the arachnoiditis community. So there's actually an arachnoiditis community within Rare Connect, and we have an outreach coordinator. You may have seen him in the group. His name is Vincent de Villiers. He's from Belgium, and he's now the coordinator, our outreach coordinator, but also the moderator for that. So if you're in Europe, or even if you're not, I mean, anyone can use it. You're more than welcome to go in there. So that's what we're talking about. Number 2, encouraging patients or carers to go to a specific group and get peer support. And number 3, helping patients. So it was just a 2.1. So again, a failing grade for most people on experience of over 3,000 people that responded to this survey. A very failing grade that our doctors and our healthcare professionals don't even bother to say, look, go seek yourself to a peer support group. This will help. Number 3, helping patients and carers deal with emotions related to the health status. I mean, it's one thing for us to know, okay, this is physiologically what's going on. It's another thing to understand what that feels like. And living alone in that is very difficult, which I'm sure everybody knows. So again, another failing grade. Despite the good technical competence of the facility, I feel very alone and not well supported psychologically. That's one of the quotes. And another one, I lack support regarding the psychological or emotional level of the disease, the side effects of medications, and how this affects my private life. And I think most of you, hopefully in the breakout groups, had a moment or two to talk about that, about how that, how that makes you feel. And I'm sorry if this is bringing up difficult emotions for people. On the other hand, I think it's probably very good for you to start to think in these ways, because I know, especially in the early years when I had it, I just felt so overwhelmed. I didn't know where to even start. And really nowadays, I think that the groups is where you start, because amongst us, really, patients are the experts. So this is one of the last things. Rare disease patients on average rate their healthcare experience 2.5. That's just barely passing. And I don't even know if that's the case. So rare disease patients seem to have a worse experience of healthcare than patients with chronic diseases. 70% of studies that use the same questionnaire reported a higher average score for chronic disease patients compared to rare disease patients. So I am saying that yes, arachnoiditis, whether it's rare or not, we live the rare experience. So they came up with some recommendations to improve, and these are the sorts of things that we are hoping to implement. Number 1, going beyond the diagnosis and medical treatment. So we don't have any treatment, or very little. I shouldn't say we don't. We have treatment thanks to Dr. Tennant. We have protocols that we have been researched thoughtfully. The anecdotal evidence is there, and he's treated a number of people, but we have absolutely no research on it other than what we've done, to be honest. So we need for the doctors and everyone to understand, we need to really define that. So we need to focus on things like follow-up after consultation, psychological support. And that's what we're hoping as a group together, because this is not me alone. This is a team group exercise that we can eventually make happen. Number 2, oh, this is my dream. Ensure access to a multidisciplinary and networked healthcare. So in Europe, although they don't have them here that I know of yet, very often, there's a few, but not very many in the United States, there's actually a national refer pathway for something called the Centers of Expertise, which would be amazing and is one of our long-term goals. It is creating, once we have some treatment ideas and so on, it is creating the opportunity to have specialized centers where there has gold standard treatment that we've tested, that we know. And we're hoping in the future, as we train more and more doctors, we get more and more specialists interested. And once we are able to get a fully fleshed out treatment plan, maybe even certain medications like orphan drugs that they're now using, we're hoping that we'll be able to create these centers of expertise. There are centers of expertise in Europe, but there's none for arachnoiditis anywhere in the world that I can find. Third recommendation is to develop and validate a questionnaire to measure the healthcare experience. Well, this is one of the things that they were just doing, but it's going to be important to understand the specific research dimensions, and that's a very technical sort of background thing, that essentially we're going to be testing in ways that the doctors understand and relate to. And so that we would need specific dimensions that are specific to rare diseases. And for example, in one of our research topics that we're having a problem with is like, do we include everyone that believes they have arachnoiditis or that have had at least one diagnosis of arachnoiditis as an arachnoiditis patient, or do we put them separately? Because unfortunately, one of the research questions is, you know, what's the gold standard? How do we do it? And then I'll just mention as a side note here, the recent study came out, and if anyone wants to have it, I believe it's on the Facebook group, and I'll have another place to tell you about in a minute. Oh God, I hate when I just lose my mind. Help me out, guys. What was I talking about? Everyone's gone to sleep. Okay.
The
We'll move
gold
on.
standard
Okay.
for diagnosis.
Okay. So anyway, this is what we're hoping to do, is to get this research out. Oh, I was going to say, and our registry, which is, you might see me talk about now and again, the registry development. Our registry is the first step in getting clinical patient. When we report things, it's called patient reported outcomes. And in the past, in research, that was not looked at, but now in rare disease, it's starting to be. We're going to have to figure those out. And as we begin to do our registry, we'll begin to be able to include those things and start doing our own research. The top 3 obstacles to finding our way through this, of course, which everyone knows, there's no public funding. I mean, to be honest, we're doing this, even this on a shoestring, I got to tell you. There's very little private funding, although lately we've had some very unexpected donors come along, and I have to tell you, it's been a real pleasure to see it happen. Now, I'm not asking any of you for money. I realize everybody's sitting in the same position as everyone else. We're not working. It's very difficult. But if you know people that are looking for places to donate, I hope that you'll consider asking them to donate here. And the third, of course, is the fact always that we're a small patient population. Now, by rare disease standards, it's less than 2 million people living in the US. That's considered a rare disease with the condition. In the UK and EU, it's less than 200,000 people worldwide with the disease. I would suspect right now that's probably true, but when we get to actually start diagnosing all the other people that are being missed, I think that will change. So they actually continue to bring on more and more studies, and I'm asking if you're interested, here's where you go to join, and they will send you surveys, and you can help tell people and get involved if you're interested about where we sit. Okay, so we'll take a breath. The hard stuff's over. So I wondered if a lot of people, I'm sure, has seen that we use zebras. Zebras are in a lot of our graphics. You'll see it, for example, on this Nord graphic. Show your stripes is a hashtag. And that's because there used to be an idea, and there still is, I suppose, in med schools, that of course, when you hear hoofbeats, don't look for zebras, think horses, meaning it's most likely going to be the most common thing that you're expecting, and don't go out of your way to look for unusual things. Well, we got to stop that, because we know that there's a lot of us that are zebras out here. And it's kind of fun because a zebra group is called a dazzle. So we are dazzling for rare, which I think is really cool. So we are the arachnoiditis herd. And when you see things with regards to zebras, this is because it's not just for arachnoiditis, but it is used universally for all rare diseases. I don't know if you can see, but I have my zebra top on tonight. All right, moving on. Arachnoiditis. We have our interim results to share to some degree. Many people know that we've had a research survey going on for about a year and a half, not even a year and a half, but a year and 4 months. And we've got almost 1,000 people. If people haven't taken the survey yet, we'll add it at the end. But we would love to hit 1,000. We did an interim sort of break of the data at about 450 people and came up with some interesting insights. So here's the word cloud for the results for the 450 or 489, I think it was, people. So you can see here really the most common things.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting, eh? What do you think? Do you
all
think
of them.
yeah. what do you guys think? Do you think that this represents?
Yeah,
what-
Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought this is really good. So this means
Oh
that the
my
research
God.
survey
Yeah,
that
I
we're,
got every one of those.
Yes, me too.
yeah. So this is what we're finding. And it is seeming very universal. I'll show you in the next, I've got a few more slides here to show you. Burning feet here, burning muscle spasms. And of course the legs, the numbness in certain parts, which is always really weird. Like, how do you have burning and pain and numbness together? But we do. A lot of people have headaches and tingling. I see a lot of the bugs crawling. I don't see here, I always call it bee stings. I get these really hot, stinging feelings in my toes. It feels just like
I
a bee
get
sting.
those.
Mhm.
Do you too? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my main ones. I don't get a lot of burning, but I get a lot of bee stings.
Yeah, bee stings. And then there's the electrical shocks. I don't know if you guys have had, I don't know if they've got it in here, but muscle spazzing and burning.
Oh my
feet.
God.
I
Yeah,
have
a
them
lot of it.
all. I have all of these
Drops
symptoms.
me to my feet. I mean, drops me to the floor sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have found that too, in that what happens with me is I'll be sitting out of just doing nothing, and all of a sudden I'll get an electrical shock and I will gasp, and everyone in the house will say, what? And no, it's okay. It just takes your breath away when it hits. So I know that we all kind of feel the same sort of things, and it's unusual that doctors don't understand this when, look, it's right there.
I
So burning feet and legs seem to be fairly specific to arachnoiditis. Also the tinglings, the feelings of the electric shocks, the big stings, and the bugs. Also, some people will say it's water dripping.
I have the water.
I have the
like
water
going
too.
down.
Yeah, and vibration. Sometimes I think that my cell phone's vibrating and it's not there. So I think this is fairly common. And it's kind of nice to know in some ways that we are all experiencing this. This is a disease that we all experience the same way. So based on the 486 participants, these are the top symptoms. Now you saw them as a word cloud, but these are the top symptoms. The first one is lower back pain, and the second one is leg pain. And the third one is burning pain. Formication is the idea of bugs crawling, water dripping, vibration, those sorts of things. That's called formication. So look at that. And then the burning sensation in feet. For me, actually, the burning sensation in the feet came before the low back pain. So it was a really unusual presentation for a while. And actually for me, I didn't even seek out. I was lucky, one of the very few lucky ones who went in emergency for something, had an MRI and was diagnosed at the time. So we're not so lucky. So the research, I just wanted to mention, is still ongoing. We have 960 participants as of today. And this is the interim data. So if you haven't had a chance yet, I believe we have it at the end, and if not, I'll write it out for you guys. It's just www.bit.ly/arachnoiditis research. Actually, I do have a slide with that. 70% say their arachnoiditis is currently severe. If you want to take a look at those responses, 24% say it's highly severe. That means highly incapacitating. Nearly half of us say it's severe. Enough that it's bothering our daily lives and interrupting our private lives. 25% say it's moderate, and really, I mean, what do we got? 4% says that it's mild. Then we've got quality of life with arachnoiditis. I was actually sort of happy to see this, that nearly half say it's tolerable. I think that the reason it's tolerable is because we've learned to tolerate it.
Yeah.
We have no choice.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that it's only tolerable as you learn to live with it. I do not think when you first get it and the symptoms first come on and the dysfunction and the disability come on, that it feels tolerable at all. I think in fact at that point,
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in fact that I would say that at that point it's intolerable. And I want to just sort of give people some hope. Again, I've been at this for 14 years. My symptoms actually started in 2002, so like 20 years of symptoms. it does get better. The pain, the dysfunction, I mean, I'm getting more CSF leaks now than I ever have. All of that worsens in some people, although now at least we have the neuroinflammation and a few things to affect with. But I think we just learn to adapt better. And as a group, I think that you should speak to your peers, involve as much, because a lot of people have great ideas that have found ways to get around some of the problems with it.
I wanted to tell everybody that I can't live without this neuropathy oil.
Oh,
It's
okay.
called neuropathy oil, and I get it from Amazon. And
Is
it's
it-
a blend of just essential oils, and I put it on my feet, and it, like, no matter what, if my feet are cold, it warms it up. If my feet are hot, it calms that down.
Oh,
I've been using it for at least 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I use cannabis stuff too, and this is the only thing that works on my feet. So
it's good. See, there we go. We've got some suggestions to give it a try out, because really, I mean, the doctors don't have anything to offer us. So sometimes we do have to just try what it is. The comorbidities, so that means other diseases or other syndromes or other problems that you have that are reported with arachnoiditis. And the highest level is degenerative disc disease, which I think in Dr. Tennant, not that he's the only one that talks about this, but he's one that specifically have said, you know, it's not just the ESIs, the epidural steroid injections, it's not just the surgeries, but for those people with degenerative disc disease, it's the constant herniations and repeated products in the spinal canal that causes the problem. Interesting. The next one was fibromyalgia. I find that an interesting thought, because I was diagnosed for many years with fibromyalgia. Then when I couldn't walk anymore and started having all these other issues, they said it was progressive fibromyalgia, which there's no such thing in any literature anywhere. But I was also told that by most of my rheumatologists, because I've had 3, that once you have a diagnosis like arachnoiditis that explains all of those symptoms, that you lose the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. However, my most recent rheumatologist said, no, you have both. So I don't know about that. I personally think that if you can explain it and it's the same kind of body pain everywhere, it's more than likely arachnoiditis as opposed to strictly this central sensation of fibromyalgia, but it's still in there. Cauda-Aquinas syndrome, that's huge. Cauda-Aquinas syndrome, chronic Cauda-Aquinas syndrome, is largely the same as arachnoiditis. The difference is that Cauda-Aquinas tends not to have the adhesions. They'll have the inflammation, they'll have some cerebral spinal fluid disruption, but they tend not to have the adhesions. Their experience in some cases is very similar to ours though. Osteoarthritis, look at this, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Now this is something I said, it's just come up in our research. Dr. Tennant has mentioned it. We don't have any proof of this yet, but this is going to inform us for our future research that we're going to have to look at some genetic studies, because there may in fact be, and I've always believed it, to be honest. My daughter has MS, got it at 26. When I went with her to the neurologist in my wheelchair, he said, "Do you have MS?" I said, "No, I have arachnoiditis." And he said, "Well, they're nearly identical. The MS is in your brain, the arachnoiditis is in your spine." And to be honest, she and I have exactly the same symptoms, but luckily, because she's only 26, she's not in a wheelchair or anything yet. Diabetes.
I have both Cauda-Equina and arachnoiditis. So if anybody ever wants to talk to me about that, I'm available for that.
Yeah, we actually affiliate ourselves with the Cauda-Equina Foundation. The girl that is the lead research, or the lead, like the president, like sort of like me, I guess, however you want to call it, team leader. Her name is Amanda Proctor. And if anyone needs a connection with her, I'll be glad to help. The same with Ehlers-Danlos. I know some people with that. Spinal stenosis, we talked about. Arthritis, look, Tarlov cysts, we see this over and over again. Now, doctors will say that Tarlov cysts are not symptomatic, but that's not what we're finding. And of course, failed back surgery syndrome, which I think is a misnomer that they just throw at stuff when they don't know what to call it. Here's where the actual research that we're doing right now, this survey is. So please add your experiences to the arachnoiditis survey. If you haven't been diagnosed, there is an area where it says, have you been diagnosed or have you not? And we'll be breaking those up into different groups. But if you believe you have it and you've been diagnosed with it at least once, you can choose that. If you haven't been diagnosed, but you know, everything else is there. We're actually being told now in the most recent study that clinical evidence, that is clinical symptoms, are what we should be diagnosing on, not on MRIs, because MRIs do not reflect the severity of the disease. Also, I'll mention while we're talking about this, that the most recent, I was really upset about this. There's a study that came out in, I think, 2020, where they gave 5 radiologists 96 MRIs, common MRIs between them, asked them to rate and diagnose on those. 3 out of 5 failed to diagnose the arachnoiditis, with only the 2 most senior radiologists agreeing on the people that had it. So more than half of radiologists do not recognize it when it's in front of them. So if you've been told, you know, yes, you do, no, you don't, yes, you do, it's largely to do with who the radiologist is. So do not get too discouraged. This happened to me actually just last summer, and it was very discouraging because, you know, I've seen it. I mean, it came out of the blue for me. I was in the hospital. They saw it on I didn't even have contrast. They saw it. So it was pretty bad at the time. And then here I am, you know, completely unable to sit, all the rest of it. And then the radiologist said, no, I don't see an arachnoiditis. Well, of course, I know how to look for it. Dr. Tennant also helped me, made sure, because I thought, you know, am I going crazy here? And no, in fact, in my case, I have a rare form that looks like it's been a chemical induced, which mine was a botched lumbar puncture. So it's probably blood. But anyway, this is if you want to take it down, if you haven't had a chance, please come and join into our survey. Our goal is 1,000, but honestly, we're going to keep this running for a while because we can get what's called a natural history portion out of this in sex. Now, with the research that you saw, the next step, like I said, is to create a patient registry. When we have the patient registry, we will have the acceptable by, you know, healthcare standards or research standards, the acceptable infrastructure for us to begin to do what's called IRB approved clinical trials. And once we begin to do that, then we'll be able to study them in peer journals and start talking about our own experiences and try different treatments and see whether they work, you know, from a clinical trial standpoint. But first we're going to do the patient registry, like I said, the patient registry. And from that, with these insights on this first study, our pilot research study, we will be able to determine where our priorities are. For example, I've always wanted what's called a bioregistry. That's where you can add your labs, you can add your MRIs, you can add your genetic samples and so on. It wasn't until just recently that I realized that it's absolutely crucial, given that we are going to need to do some genetic studies too. So please come if you haven't. It's going to be going for a while. All right, we're almost done. We have an exciting announcement. So excited. 4 years we worked on this, and oh gosh, thanks to Eve, we've got this going, okay? So something for arachnoiditis community to enjoy, containing everything to understand arachnoiditis. We have our own website. Hallelujah.
That's
We're-
great.
Yay.
Yay, thank you, Eve. And it's amazing. You're going to love
Well
it. It's got
done, guys.
everything. So we've had problems in the Facebook groups trying to keep the information at the top, being able to find people to, know where to look in the, it's very difficult to categorize in the Facebook groups, and not everybody loves Facebook and so on. So we've worked on this, and I think you're gonna afterwards, I'm hoping, I was gonna take you all for a test drive, but I think you can do that afterwards on yourself. But I'm gonna open the floor to Eve, just because Eve was, and she is the hero in this, she really is. We've been trying for, like I said, 4 years, 2 years really, really bad. We had 2 other designers who started and then sort of ghosted on us. And Eve has whipped it into place. So Eve and the web designer named Nighthawk Studios in Canada here have created it. And I'm going to open the floor just for a little bit, Eve. What are you most excited about with having a website?
What's not to be excited about? I mean, for one thing, it opens up arachnoiditis to the world. Facebook groups are they're great. I mean, they really are, but they're limiting in the audience that you can get. And the more that we spread awareness about arachnoiditis, the better. So there will be people searching for arachnoiditis on Google, and our website will come up on Google, and they'll come to our website. And the more people that we have coming to the website, the more people we have, getting involved. It opens up more opportunities for us. So I'm really excited about it, but really
That's
for that
awesome.
reason.
Yeah, there's going to be a blog monthly. There's going to be a newsletter monthly. So please sign up. We will be maintaining the Facebook page, but a lot of the stuff that we will be doing will be on the website, and then we will be sharing it to the Facebook page. In time, we're just trying to figure all this out right now, but in time, we'd like to move this sort of social media aspect where people can talk amongst themselves, ask questions amongst themselves, and so on in different groups. We'd like to add that so that you don't have to be on Facebook. Facebook, I know a lot of people are concerned about security problems and so on. And with ours, we hope that once we have that in place for you guys and for us, that we won't have those issues with Facebook anymore.
Yeah, and things won't get buried anymore. When you put up a post in Facebook, it goes down pretty quick, especially, Lori especially adds a lot of content to Facebook, and it gets buried way down there, and you can only pin so many things to the announcement. So it's going to be really great for that. And it's organizing the information, having it all in one spot for everybody to come and find should be really phenomenal. And then I'm excited about, I'm also want to do a blog, kind of like Facebook style, where people will have different categories for like treatment options or side effects or comorbidities or whatever issue you have. We'll have a blog for it. You'll be able to post, and people we'll put up posts. People will be able to comment and get involved in it that way too. So kind of like a membership thing. I'm hoping to do. That'll be the next.
And then
step.
I'll have Eve and I together will be writing a newsletter every month. We'll try to keep up to date with any new developments with research or any new say protocols that have come out, any new opportunities for everyone to join, all of that sort of thing. So I hope you'll go and take a look at the website when you have time, engage with it. You might find a few little typos. We were really rushing hard to get this ready for tonight. I mean, I don't think Eve slept in 2 weeks. So if you found anything, just, you're welcome to just circle it, take a screenshot and send it over. But we will be, dotting all the T's and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's in the next week or so. Okay.
Sounds good. Very good.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming to our rare disease event. And we'll be hopefully doing one of these every year if I can find interesting things to talk about. I hope that it hasn't triggered too many people. If it has, please come into the private group at Iraq Warriors or one of the other many groups and discuss about, how you're feeling, because I know that it probably, at least earlier in the presentation, it may have given you some difficult feelings, and we have to work through those. So
Are we
I
ever
would
going to
like to
have
say-
it? Are we ever going to have an official T-shirt?
Yes,
That's like on the
merchandising.
website?
We didn't plan this part of this, actually. I mean, Lori did the thing to announce the website, but we didn't really set up a plan about talking about this. Yes, merchandising is actually the next thing. And then in the online forum.
I will tell you about
So-
2 things about the merchandise. Because we had planned this. We'd actually planned to have this up, but unfortunately, the other person that was supposed to do this wasn't well enough to finish through. So that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll pick it up in the next bit. We've already actually chosen 4 designs for t-shirts, hoodies, and so on to start with. And we're going to be announcing a Arachnoiditis community artist competition, where we will choose Arachnoiditis art made by we have many resident artists. We might choose a few. Maybe we'll do one a month or one every 6 months or something of that nature, depending on the response. But yeah, keep an eye. It won't be long. We're just picking our e-commerce platform right now. We've already chosen some of the products that we want to start with. And all of this will not be going to anyone's, pocket, except for back in to our organization, which is a nonprofit, and no one gets paid for anything at this point. There's no salaries. We just all do this on our own. So I want to say, if you're looking for a place to donate specifically that will help arachnoiditis research, the registry, I should say my registry, it's my registry plan. The registry will probably take a maintenance fee of around $2,000 a year, depending on how big it is. And right now, our budget this has been our first year to have a budget, and it's been about $4,000 that was given. No, I'm sorry. Yes, $4,000, not all at once, that was given to us through the Tenant Foundation to help get all this going. And in fact, the Tenant Foundation and recent donations have been what has been able to give us the money to set up the website and get online. So for those of you that have donated in the past, thank you very much. There is a donate link on the new website, and I think it's on about every page.
Yes,
But,
it is.
do not feel pressured. I know that people do not have a lot of money necessarily when you're sick, and a lot of people are on disability, but friends and neighbors might ask, and maybe for your birthday or that sort of thing, if you can share it, we would really appreciate it.
One thing though, while we've got everybody here, Lori, we are looking for patient stories, and there is a section on the website called Faces of Arachnoiditis, and you'll see down at the bottom there's a little thing there that's where you can click the email to send us your story, and we're looking for something 500 words or less, and this will be in the newsletter too. So if you go to the Faces of Arachnoiditis on the website, click on that, you'll find the link to email us your story. So
Okay.
please.
I've done that before to some group, but I don't know if it was, you guys haven't done that before, the stories, because I know I submitted it someplace.
We have promoted rare disease organizations like Eurodis or NORDS when they've been doing, like, for example, Rare Disease Day, they did a call out for patient stories. So we would have shared that before, but we've never had one specifically for ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. There are two.
I have it saved in a little document.
Oh,
I've
send
shared
it
so
on.
many times before.
Oh, good. Yeah, just copy paste it, send it on, and we're hoping to at least feature 2 a month. So please, if we can do that, that would be great. I'm going
And
to
a photo as well, if you have that, if you want to share a photo. You don't have to, but if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm an artist, so I would like to maybe, I'm not a working artist or anything. I just do it for pain relief, really.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
awesome.
That's
I'm-
great.
Mindfulness, so.
Yeah.
Yep. We need those things.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you
Oh.
for coming. we will be monitoring our Facebook page for the next couple hours, putting out some posts with regards to our new website. And I'll also keep an eye on our Iraq Warriors private group in case anybody wants to chat about any of this.
Sounds good.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thank you,
for
Good
everybody.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank
Thank you,
Love you.
Lori. Thank you, Eve.
you. Have a nice
bye-bye.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Nice not to feel alone.
Nice meeting everyone.
Yes.
Nice meeting
You too,
everyone.
Bob.
Please join us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm coming, Sadie.
I'm trying to find a way to shut this down. Can you shut it down for me, Matthew? Are you still there?
Here, I go.
You're on your own.
I know. Oh my gosh. Oh, I
All right,
can't.
I'm out of here.
Okay.